Our CBN News political team has tracked the election from the very beginning. So let's go now to our chief political correspondent, David Brody, and D.C. reporter Jenna Browder for more on the role evangelicals played in the Trump victory.
All right, thank you, Wendy. Well, one group of voters that really helped to push Donald Trump to the White House, evangelicals. And we have some numbers for you here. We have Trump. He got 81% of the white evangelical voters. That is better than George W. Bush and Mitt Romney.
Fascinating.
Incredible. Clinton, meantime, had 16% of the white evangelical vote. In 2012, let's look at those numbers. Mitt Romney had 78%. Again, Donald Trump 81%. So he bested him by 3 whole percentage points. That's huge.
Yeah, it is huge. And if you look at the numbers, so you have 81% for Trump and 78% for Romney, but also Obama's numbers were better than Clinton with evangelicals. So the whole thing works out to about an 8-point differential for Trump with evangelicals, which are huge. We have some more numbers, Jenna, here too. Yeah. Regarding these are the white born-again evangelicals. You mentioned 81%, but in Florida, 85% of white born-again evangelicals were voting for Trump. That's above that, obviously. That 85 is above 81, I believe.
Right. Last time I checked.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, that's good math by me. So
we do math.
Oh, we do math.
Clearly.
Well, maybe you don't. Well, that's a whole nother. Sorry.
I don't want to go there.
That's another segment.
Oh boy.
So anyhow, Florida 85%, white born-again evangelicals. North Carolina 82%, and these were two key states that who is it? Trump had to win.
Yeah. Do you think the argument could be made, David, that evangelicals are largely in part to thank for pushing Donald Trump to the White House?
I think you can go even further. I think it's more than largely. I think they are the reason that Donald Trump is in the White House. They're the reason that he was the nominee to begin with. Remember, it's Super Tuesday. We can go back then, and it was South Carolina and so many other states that put him over the top, though South Carolina wasn't on Super Tuesday. But the point is that he was winning evangelicals. They put him in the catbird seat, if you will, as the nominee, and now we had talked about how he had to be over 80% to win the presidency with evangelicals. Here it is,
81%.
81%, fascinating.
81%. And some big issues. There were a lot of selling points. Donald Trump gave evangelicals a lot of reasons to show up at the polls. And talk about some of the issues, obviously the Supreme Court. Donald Trump promising to put some very conservative justices on the Supreme Court. So that's big, and we'll see who he appoints. He's given a list of about 10 people or so.
Yeah, I think
so he'll be making that decision here very quickly.
I do want to say one thing. You hit on a very key word. He promised these names out there, which, I mean, that's unprecedented. And I think that really helped evangelicals to say, hey, this guy, can we trust him or not? Oh, these are the people he's going to think about nominating? Well, that gives us some more feeling of confidence that he'll do the right thing. Right.
Another issue, you have the Supreme Court, but then you also have his stances on things like being pro-life. He and Hillary Clinton were so far apart on their stances on that issue. And I think evangelicals and non-evangelicals, they just said, we can't get on board with this late-term abortion policy.
Well, and then in the debate, that last debate where Donald Trump basically explaining the partial birth abortion procedure on a national debate stage. No one had ever done that. Reagan hadn't done that. Bush hadn't done that. Romney hadn't done that. So that was impressive.
And we want to talk a little bit about Mike Pence. He is huge in the evangelical circles. We talked to him, this was just about a week before Election Day, and one thing I thought was interesting, he had a Bible on his campaign bus.
Yeah, you noticed that.
I noticed that, I thought that was telling, and maybe a window into his character.
I think so, and it's been huge, obviously. That's the reason that Donald Trump was able to bring in some of those evangelicals. I mean, I believe we saw that 81% figure. I don't think it's 81% without Mike Pence. I don't think there's any question about it. I think you're looking at probably that 75, 78%, but that wouldn't have gotten it done. If you think about Florida and North Carolina, those big numbers, 85 and 82%. Without Mike Pence, those numbers are going to drop. I mean, they just are. And so what happens, you have victories in those key states. So, interesting.
And you get, there was the talk about a lot of Republicans coming home in the last couple of weeks, coming home to the Republican Party, voting for Donald Trump. And I think that's the case you have here. I think Mike Pence really made a lot of Christians feel more comfortable voting for Donald Trump. And it's not only Mike Pence, but a lot of the other people Donald Trump has surrounded himself with, whether it's Mike Huckabee, whether it's Ben Carson, all of these other principled, highly respected people in evangelical circles.
Well, that's right. And I think you're going to see Mike Huckabee and Ben Carson go into that Trump administration somehow. Ben Carson for sure, Health and Human Services potentially, maybe the Department of Education. And Mike Huckabee, wouldn't be surprised. Someone said Mike Huckabee should be his chief of staff. That's interesting. I don't know. We'll see.
Who do you think could be up for that position?
Well, Reince Priebus possibly.
Chris Christie?
Chris Christie, maybe. I think Chris Christie more at Justice, maybe Attorney General, maybe. We'll see. I don't know.
What about Newt Gingrich?
Newt Gingrich, I'm thinking Secretary of State.
Secretary of State, yeah.
So, anyhow.
Well, I think that's all of our time. We're getting a wrap here.
We got to wrap. We got to go.
It always goes so quickly.
Gosh, I hate
I know.
that.
But hey, we appreciate you listening to us here with all of our numbers. Again, we're not real math people, but
No, we're not. No, we are not.
all right, Wendy, back to you at the Christian World News Desk.
All right, guys, you guys are too funny. Well, thanks to David and Jenna and our entire DC Bureau for the incredible election coverage this year. It was quite a night. And joining us now for a spiritual perspective on the election is Dr. Cornay Becker. He's the Dean of the School of Divinity at Regent University. We were just talking about what an incredible night it was. And I know you were glued to your TV set and watching the map. And you said you really sensed a shift somewhere around 9 p.m.
Right. In actual fact, Wendy, I was here at CBN News from 10 to 11. And when I got home, I just couldn't go to bed and just watched this consistently. And I do believe that God listened to the prayers of his people, regardless of which person you supported.
Absolutely.
It's very clear that God listened.
As we just heard from David and Jenna, the evangelicals did play a huge role in this election. And like you said, God answered our prayers. What now? What would you say to the evangelicals? What do we do now?
There are a number of things that we need to do. I think first and foremostly, it seems to me that America's in the midst of a time of education. We need to help our folks understand what democracy is. Secondly, I think we need some classes in good Christian manners and how do we communicate to one another. But then I think we need to get back into a culture of supporting our government in prayer. But then for me, I always think that one of the most important things in society is that we have to start with the most vulnerable and the weak.
Right.
And this would be the unborn. Right. This has been a time of extraordinary slaughter. There's been a genocide within this country. And for some reason, the church has really sat back in the last number of years. And I think the time has now come. It is now possible for us to rise up and say, no longer will the unborn indeed be vulnerable. This is the time.
And I think the abortion issue was key in this election.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Now, there's some fear that there's a risk now of the church getting complacent, getting lazy. We won. We don't have to do anything now. And we've even gotten some emails from that. One lady saying, I fear the Trump victory will cause many to think America has been fixed. What do you say to that?
Oh, no. The work really starts now. And if we just look at the two parties, in some ways this vote was a vote of no confidence in both parties.
Yeah.
Because indeed Donald Trump comes as this outsider. And one of the reasons why this happened is that there was no leadership development on both sides. Now we have to think about the future. There are so many issues in America that needs to be fixed. If we think about the issue of religious liberty, the appreciation of individual responsibility that needs to come back.
Well, we see the protests going on right now in the streets, people, getting quite violent, a lot of people crying. How does the church heal this huge divide? I mean, our country is definitely divided. How can we heal?
Jesus said the following. He said, a house divided against itself cannot stand.
Right.
This now is the time for both the church and for America to come together and to ask the question, who are we? What makes us indeed one? And the church should really play a leading role within it. And again, some good education on manners, I think, would be helpful.
Yes, on both sides.
Right.
For sure. Dr. Cornay Becker, thanks so much for your insights. We always appreciate it.
Always a joy, Wendy.